Welcome to my podcast reflecting on poverty in the 16th century and how far attitudes have changed over the last 400 years, along with my friend Rory.
Hi, I'm Rory, your co-pilot for the next 5-ish minutes.
We will be exploring both the causes of poverty and the ways in which successive Tudor administrations attempted to solve it.
We hope you find our podcast interesting and informative.
Here's something that'll blow your mind. In Tudor England, if you were caught begging without a licence, you could literally have a hole burned through your ear with a hot iron. The way English society has dealt with poverty throughout history exposes some pretty dark truths about human nature.
Well, that's chilling. Those Tudor poor laws were really the foundation of modern welfare systems, even if their methods could be brutal. Apart from the goriness, which I know you like, what made you interested in this particular aspect of Tudor society?
Well, I've been fascinated by how they created this stark division between what they called the deserving and undeserving poor. Like, if you were elderly, sick, a widow, or a child, you got help. But if you were able-bodied and unemployed, you might actually face prosecution and punishment. It made me think about how society treats the poor today. It made me rethink how I define poverty and react to homeless individuals I encounter.
I doubt society will ever get it right, if I'm honest, but that is a fundamental flaw with the capitalist construct.
True.
Anyway, back to the 16th century. We need some context. To start with, the population of England nearly doubled in just 80 years, from about 2.3 million to over 4 million people.
And that was just one piece of this perfect storm. You had Henry VIII debasing the currency, which led to massive inflation. Then these wealthy landowners started enclosing common lands for sheep farming, basically pushing entire communities off land they'd farmed for generations.
And then, as if things weren't bad enough, Henry VIII dissolved all the monasteries between 1536 and 1541 to line his own pockets. I think most people probably have quite a narrow view of the purpose of monasteries, which is really unhelpful when understanding the poor laws. What exactly did monasteries do?
Monasteries were basically medieval social service hubs. They provided healthcare, education, legal advice, charity, alms, even housing for travellers. Imagine every national health service provider, food bank, homeless charity, and citizens' advice bureau closing overnight alongside the biggest employer in the country. When the monasteries disappeared, it left this huge gap that the poor laws desperately tried to plug. Different approaches were explored, but eventually a localised system was formalised.
Tell me more about how this innovative local system worked. Who did what? When? How? Did it solve everything?
Well, each parish had to appoint these officials called overseers of the poor, who collected a local tax specifically to help the poor. Pretty revolutionary for the 1500s. Some wealthier parishes even set up permanent institutions like poorhouses and almshouses. Many villages in England have retained their almshouses as housing for the poorer, often older members of their communities. But here's the catch. The quality of help you got depended entirely on where you lived.
So, if you were poor in a wealthy London parish, you might be okay, but if you were in a struggling rural area,
you could be completely out of luck. Rural poverty, just like today, may not have grabbed the headlines in the way that gangs of vagrants in towns did, but it was horrific. It didn't help that tensions with Spain disrupted the cloth trade, and poor farming methods led to successive crop failures. Income went down, but food prices went up.
Am I right in saying that they had this system called outdoor relief, where they'd give people food, fuel, or money while letting them stay in their own homes? But they never really addressed the root causes of poverty. It was all about managing the poor rather than solving poverty. It's fascinating how some of these attitudes still echo today. We might not burn anyone's ears anymore, but do you think we've fully moved past that deserving versus undeserving poor mentality?
That's such a good question. While we've moved to a rights-based system with things like universal credit and housing support, You can still hear echoes of those Tudor attitudes in modern debates about welfare. The language might be different, but some of those underlying assumptions about poverty persist. There's still an assumption held by too many that a homeless person could just get a job.
Though at least now we focus more on prevention through education and training programs rather than punishment, right? I'm thinking of the work of charities such as Shelter and Centrepoint.
Absolutely, and that's a crucial shift in thinking. We've moved
Or have we?
away from seeing poverty as a moral failing to understanding it as a complex social and economic issue. But you know what's really striking? How some of these basic questions about society's responsibility to help the poor are still with us. We're just answering them differently now.
Well, looking at this history certainly makes me grateful for modern social services, even with all their flaws.
Right? And it shows how far we've come in understanding poverty. Instead of burning ears and whipping vagrants, we're finally starting to address those underlying causes, though we still have quite a way to go.
Before we finish, can I recommend a couple of films about poverty in modern England?
Sure,
Daniel Blake, and Sorry We Missed You.
absolutely. Both great films. Neither is an easy watch, but powerful and provocative. Thanks, Rory.
No problem.
I'd also recommend The Prince and the Pauper by Mark Twain, a body swap story based during the reign of Edward VI. Thanks for listening to our podcast.
I really enjoyed my guest appearance.
Please like and consider subscribing. Until next time.
Slán.